These 8 steps are the foundation of you building your dream team, and your dream team allows you to grow your practice with ease. You become not the bottleneck. In fact, what your team does is they amplify you. Now, KPI stands for a key performance indicator. It's a measurable value that shows how effectively an individual or team is achieving objectives. In simpler terms, KPIs are the scorecards for performance. They clarify whether the goals are being met and they identify areas for improvement, all right? If you want to have a dream team, if you want a high performance team, there needs to be a scorecard. There needs to be accountability. Your community needs you building a dream team. Good morning. Good afternoon and good evening, folks. And welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that has the potential to transform not just your practice, but your entire career trajectory. We're going to be talking about building your dream team. Now, if you've ever felt like you're carrying the entire weight of your practice on your shoulders, then this episode today is absolutely for you. Now, having a great team isn't just a nice to have. It's often the catalyst for explosive growth. Think about it. When you have a team that's aligned with your mission, delivering exceptional patient care and managing the day-to-day operations with precision, the growth of your practice is no longer solely dependent on you. You're no longer the bottleneck. Now, here's the thing. Building a team is not a skill that comes naturally to most chiropractors. We spend years learning how to adjust, how to find subluxation, how to care for our patients, but virtually no time learning how to hire, train, and lead a team. And because of this, many of us avoid this altogether. We stick to what we know, or worse, we tell ourselves a story that it's just not worth the effort. Now, I know many of you listening here have tried managing staff beforehand, and maybe it didn't go as planned. You might have felt the frustration of misaligned values, of underperformance, or sometimes just outright conflict. Perhaps you've even decided to move towards a staffless practice. I see this as a trend as well. And you're doing it not because this is what you truly want, but because you've been burned in the past and you think it's just easier to do it all yourself. But here's the truth, okay? Building and leading a team is a learnable skill. And if you're willing to put in the time to master it, it can be one of the most impactful things that you ever do for your practice and maybe even for your life as well, and certainly for your community. And that's exactly what we're going to cover in today's episode. I'm going to walk you through 8 really clear, actionable steps to help you build your dream team and avoid the common pitfalls and create a practice that grows far beyond your personal efforts. We're going to get really quite tactical here as well. So grab a notebook, get a pen, and get ready to take some notes, and let's start building the team that will help you achieve the practice and the life that you've always wanted. All right, so let's kick it off. Step number 1 is hire the right person. Now, this might sound like some pretty obvious advice. A number of years ago, after I had my first separation, hopefully my only separation and divorce that I'll ever go through, I decided it was probably time that I really began to study marriage. Like what went into a great marriage and what makes marriages last and what makes them also, fail. I interviewed a number of people, so family members and friends and patients who seemed to have really, really amazing marriages. And I remember talking to a patient of mine, a guy in his 60s, who he and his wife were both practice members. Beautiful, loving relationship, 40 plus years of marriage. And I remember talking to him and I said, what are the ingredients for a really great marriage? And he came back with an answer that really frustrated me, but it's one of the truest things that I know. And he says, Angus, a great marriage starts with choosing the right person. This applies 100% to us building a really great team. Too often, chiropractors settle for convenience. They end up hiring a family member, a friend, or someone who simply happens to be available. If they've got a pulse, then we'll get them in here. And then they wonder why it doesn't work out. Building a dream team starts with intentionality and alignment. Now, there's several keys to hiring the right person, but what I want to focus on today and speak about today is values, okay? Now, this means we need to start with identifying your practice's core values. Maybe you've already done this, and if you have, then fantastic for you. You can start by identifying your practice's core values by reflecting on what is it that makes your practice unique. Patient-centered, innovation, community involvement, efficiency. Think about the qualities in team members that have worked well in the past versus those that haven't. Maybe come together with your existing team and brainstorm a list of 3 to 5 values that are absolute non-negotiables. Okay, so for example, here's some that you might want to choose from. Maybe compassion, accountability, attention to detail, a growth mindset, team spirit. These would be 5 good ones for you to really consider. And then what we want to do is right back at the early stages, we want to translate these values into actionable interview questions. This was a game changer for us when we started interviewing for new staff, is that we got really clear about our values. And then I would just ask these value questions and I could really clearly see if they were going to be aligned or not. So compassion, for instance, I might ask a question, can you tell me about a time when you went out of your way to help somebody? What did you do and how did it impact them? And how did you feel about this? Now, asking this sort of question here lets us find out a lot about the person. Accountability, we could ask a question. Describe a time when you made a mistake at work and how did you handle it? Did they admit to it? Did they try and hide it? Were they happy to share that with the team? Attention to detail, that value there. When you had to complete a task with lots of small steps, how did you ensure that nothing was overlooked? If we wanted to find out about a growth mindset, we could say, what was the last skill or knowledge that you intentionally set out to learn? How did you do it and why? If we wanted to find out about team spirit, we could say, have you ever worked on a team where somebody wasn't pulling their weight and how did you address this? These are questions that I love to ask, similar ones to this, because we can find out a lot about people. These questions here will help you find out what their values are. Now, if these are inherent and true values for people, they'll be able to answer these questions really quite easily, effortlessly. They'll come up with examples. And if they're not, then they won't be able to. Okay, this can be a yellow and often a very red flag as well. We need to make sure that we set realistic expectations for cultural fit. There are hard and soft skills, and values are often referred to as soft skills. Hard skills in terms of their experience, in terms of their technical skills. These things can be taught. I can teach somebody to use the computer. I can teach somebody to, take a set of x-rays, take a scan, those type of things. It's much harder to teach somebody a growth mindset. It's much harder to teach somebody compassion, integrity. It's much harder to teach somebody, really wonderful customer service as well. So we always hire for values, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same. Ignore whether they have past experience. There have been times that we've had someone come into the practice that might have worked in a medical office or something like that. And sometimes someone would say, well, do we want to hire them because, they've been in another area that might be kind of contradictory to ours? I'm like, no, maybe if they've got the right values, they just don't know about chiropractic. And once they know about it, we can excite them. We can teach them those sorts of concepts. So step number 1, if you want to build a dream team, is hire the right person. And this should be all built around values. Now, if you've got a team already, then what you want to do is find out what are your values and look at your team members. And my bet is those that you're having difficulties with are probably ones that have different values. Okay. The second thing, if we want to build a dream team, is that we need to have a really clear job description. Now, why is this critical? A well-crafted job description acts as a blueprint for success in any role, okay, whether it be, and again, as I'm talking about this, don't just think front desk staff. You need to be thinking about your associates and running through this same thing, whether it be doing a CA, a tech CA, or a chiropractor that you're hiring, or any other person there as well. But a job description through here ensures that everybody is on the same page and they know what's expected. It eliminates confusion. And again, it sets the foundations for accountability. In relationships, whether they be intimate relationships like you have with your significant other, what we want to do is have really clear expectations. What do you expect of me? What do you expect me to do around the house and in my roles? What do I expect of you? And when there's an expectation match, that's a really great foundations for a wonderful relationship. But most of the time, what we do is we expect people to read our fucking mind. Okay, you have almost zero chance of building a great relationship if you're expecting to be in mind reading, okay? Without clarity, you risk hiring the wrong person. You risk misaligned expectations. It's going to lead to frustration for both of you. You're going to have really difficult time measuring the performance, okay? So we're going to talk about this in a moment there too. But some things to think about in a job description. Obviously, there should be the job title. Is it a chiropractic assistant? Is it an associate? Is it a tech assistant? What is it as well? We want a summary of the role. Okay, this is a paragraph, 1, 2, 3 sentences that contribute. So it might be, hey, listen, the chiropractic assistant, you ensure seamless patient experience, you support the chiropractor with clinical tasks, and you maintain a well-organized and welcoming environment. Okay, that's the summary of the role. Then what you want to do is you want to list out the key responsibilities. Again, here you're probably looking at somewhere between maybe 5 to 10. We want to be precise. Again, it could be something like this: scheduling and confirming patient appointments, assisting with patient intake, including gathering health history and documentations. It could be educating patients on practice policies and, chiropractic. It could be maintaining a clean and organized clinic space. But we want key responsibilities as well. We want to have some skills and qualifications. Again, we want to divide this into 2 different sections. These are required skills. These are non-negotiables. Something like attention to detail, basic computer literacy, and then there's preferred skills. Okay, so these might be things like that they're not a deal breaker, but prior experience in a chiropractic office might be nice. Okay, but not a deal breaker. Again, you'd want to list the values. Here in our job description, we have the values actually laid out. Okay, we value compassion, teamwork, continuous learning. Candidates who embody these traits will thrive in this role, okay? We want to detail the hours, the pay, and the benefits. So these are the basic things that you want to do. Now, when you're wanting to put one of these together, there's a couple of ways that you can go about this. Manually, they're not all that complicated to do. Just follow those steps I went through beforehand. But begin with the end in mind, okay? What would success look like for this role in 90 days' time? So if you've got somebody that's already in there, what do we want them doing? What are their day-to-day tasks? And again, we can ask our existing staff, hey, listen, over this next week, I want you to have a pen and paper with you, and I want you to make a list of all the tasks that you do on a daily basis. And I know this is going to be a bit extra effort and those kind of things there too, but it's super important because I want to clarify the job description for you so then we can set expectations. This will make it much easier for us both, okay? So we could get our existing staff people to kind of roll this out for us as well. ChatGPT can be amazing for this. Like once you've got those items all listed out, get on a conversation with ChatGPT. You're either writing it down or you're talking it to them, and ChatGPT will do a great job of putting a job description together for you, okay? Some final thoughts on step 2, okay? A clear job description is more than just a hiring tool. It is the roadmap to success, okay? Clarity at the outset ensures that everybody knows where they're heading, all right? We've got a destination where we need to go, all right? And if we have a map to get us there, the chance of us getting there is much more likely. When we invest the time up front and we create a really detailed job description, you set the stage for a much smoother onboarding and better outcomes for your practice, okay? Step number 3, once we've got that clear job description, the next thing that we need to have is really clear KPIs. We need to have these both hard and soft KPIs. I'll define those terms for you in a moment. I want you to think back to when you were studying, getting a chiropractic degree, and I want you to think, how much time and effort did you put into those subjects where there was no formal grade? I remember celebrating those subjects. You'd sit down, when is the exam? They say, there's no actual exam for this too, but I want you to learn these and these things. If you're like most people, there was probably very little time that you put into those subjects where there was no formal grade. And the reason is simple, there's no accountability. And this is where KPIs come in, okay? Now, KPI stands for a key performance indicator. It's a measurable value that shows how effectively an individual or team is achieving objectives, okay? In simpler terms, KPIs are the scorecards for performance. They clarify whether the goals are being met and they identify areas for improvement, all right? If you want to have a dream team, if you want a high performance team, there needs to be a scorecard. There needs to be accountability, okay? KPIs help with alignment. They ensure that everybody's working towards the same goals, okay? Accountability, I've talked about that. They provide a way to measure success. If we're going to teach somebody and we're not going to follow through with some level of accountability, we may as well not teach it in the first place. They can be fabulous for motivation. They create clarity in around what winning looks like, and team members want to win. Naturally, as human beings, we want to win, but most of us are so vague, we don't clarify what winning looks like, so we don't make it easy for our patients, so we end up exhausted and disenchanted in this whole process as well. Without clear KPIs, team members are going to feel aimless. They're going to feel uncertain. I was chatting with a chiropractor earlier on in the week there too, and he's realizing that the staff member is aimless. It's because there's not a clear job description. There's not signs there to show how to get better. She doesn't know what winning looks like, okay? And without KPIs, even worse, what happens is that sometimes we end up focusing on the wrong tasks. They think they're helping when they're actually not. Now, let me differentiate, because I mentioned before there are hard and soft KPIs, okay? Hard KPIs are quantifiable and objective, okay? So they're, for instance, the number of new patient bookings. They're the average wait time for patients. They're making sure that we balance at the end of the shift. They're the number of patients that leave our practice without new appointment. They're how many recalls we get reactivated. These are things that are black and white. They're either done or they're not, and often they're numbers, okay? They're incredibly important. We want to have these, of course, for our associates. It should be their retention, their referrals, their net promoter score, their conversion rates, the number of visits they're seeing. These are all things that we could have as hard KPIs. But also, there are a number of soft KPIs that we want to be looking at as well. And these are equally as important, but they're a little bit more challenging to measure. They're often much more subjective and they focus more on behaviors or experiences. So the level of friendliness during patient interactions. And again, we can base this on feedback, team collaboration, communication, adherence to clinic values like punctuality or professionalism, willingness to adapt to new systems. These are all soft KPIs, and we want to choose out what are these. And then we want to come up with ways to measure those as well, okay? So how to come up with what KPIs are best for you as well. Again, start with your goals. What is the ultimate goal for the role? For instance, if you're hiring a front desk assistant, the goal here is to ensure that people feel welcomed and that processes are running smoothly, okay? So then based on that, we could set down and break down the responsibilities. What are the core tasks? Scheduling, confirming, managing patient flows, keeping the front office organized and welcomed. And then in around that, we build out our KPIs. Make them smart, make them specific, clearly measurable as well. Use numbers if you possibly can also, okay? Achievable, relevant, time-bound, all those sorts of things. Here's the key takeaways I want you to have from KPIs. They give your team a really clear picture of what success looks like. They provide actionable steps to achieve it, and they combining hard and soft KPIs ensures that you're measuring both tangible results, and the human elements that keeps our practice really thriving as well, okay? KPIs form an essential ingredient for building your dream team. Okay, let's move on to step number 4. Step number 4 is having documented systems for implementation. Okay, so what do I mean by documented system? This is detailed step-by-step guides that explain how to perform a specific task or a process in your practice. These documents can take the form of checklists or flowcharts, videos, or written procedures. They act as a how-to manual, okay, for running your practice smoothly, consistently. They ensure that no steps are missed and that everybody knows their roles. Now, why are they important? Most of us know this as well, but they help with consistency, they help with efficiency, they help with accountability, they help with scalability, okay? Again, if it's exhausting to bring on a new staff person, then we can't scale our practice because we have to go over this again and again and again. But if we've got really well-documented systems, then it's a matter of just following that. And then we can train other staff members to onboard our new staff members as well, okay? They really help with problem solving. So when something goes wrong, you can pinpoint where the breakdown occurred and then you can update that system as is needed as well, okay? So there are several different systems that need to be documented in a chiropractic practice. Patient intake, a step-by-step instructions of how we greet the patient, collect their health form, enter their data into our system as well, appointment scheduling, room preparation, communication, recalls, new patient visits, all of these things we want to have documented systems as well. Now, where do you start with this? Start with the high impact areas. Focus on the processes that are repeated frequently and that are critical to patient care, okay? So what steps, for instance, are involved in onboarding a new patient? Remember, we only get one chance to make a really great first impression, so we want to nail all of this. When you're putting together these systems, it doesn't need to be done by yourself. Ask the team members who perform these tasks to outline what they do. You could record them, okay, if it's appropriate there as well for a phone call, or you could video them, or you could note it down as well. This sort of information can then be inputted into things like ChatGPT, and it'll break it down into a step-by-step. But again, each step needs to be clear and actionable and written in really plain language. And so when you've kind of written out, the way to test whether you've done a good job of it is to give it to somebody who doesn't know this system and then see if they can reproduce it, all right? So checklists can be great for this. Videos can be great for this. Several different ways that we can go through and make it work, okay? A really important part of any system is documenting the why behind each step. Often, when we see a system that's laid out, what we might want to do is bypass a couple of the steps because we think there's a better way. If we don't let people know the why behind it, if we explain the purpose of the task, we ensure the team members understand its importance. So, for instance, in our practice, we don't shut down the computers each and every night. And the reason we don't do that is because it takes a long time for them to start up the next morning. So there's a why in behind that, okay? Why do you not shut them down? I thought you meant to do that with computers, okay? So let people know the why behind the steps there too, okay? Again, choose the right format. Sometimes it's written, sometimes video, sometimes audio, sometimes it's a screen capture, okay? If we want to show somebody how the front desk system works, let's record the screen as well. So use technology. Here's the key takeaway here for written documentation. Documented systems are the secret to running a practice that's efficient, scalable, and patient-focused. By creating really clear and accessible instructions, you ensure that your team operates like a really well-oiled machine, even on the busiest of days, okay? Step number 5 is that we want to have a structured onboarding process. Most chiropractors are absolute nightmare when it comes to this, okay? When we have a new person that comes on, we need to have a process of getting them up to speed. And most of us just throw them in the deep end and say, there's the manual, go for it, okay? An onboarding process is a structured plan designed to integrate new team members into your practice. It encompasses everything from the initial orientation all the way to the first few months. As a general, it's the first 90 days is what we look at, somewhere in around that 90 days, 12 weeks, okay? The goal here is to help new hires understand their role, feel welcome, and get up to speed as quickly and efficiently as possible, okay? So again, why is it important? Because it sets the tone for success. It'll increase retention, okay? Research shows that businesses that have a really good onboarding keep people for 50% longer. It'll boost the confidence. So if I'm onboarded and I'm showing how to do things right, I'm going to make less mistakes. I'm going to feel better about my role. It'll ensure consistency as well. So what might it look like the first 12 weeks? This is kind of what we want to have happening in our practice. Day 1 is welcome the person, have them meet the team, tour the office, including the patient areas, the staff areas, any emergency procedures, where's the loo, those sorts of things. Review the practice's mission, our vision, and our values as well. We might have an onboarding packet that has the job description, our policies, and our procedures. That's all on day 1. Day 2 to 5, we want to start to introduce them to our front desk software. We want them shadowing experienced team members. We want them to begin some training on immediate tasks, for instance, answering the phone, greeting patients, those kind of things. And then we have an end of week check-in with a chiropractor or the office manager just to address any questions or concerns, okay? Week 2 to 4, okay, in that early stage there, we want them starting some of the responsibilities under supervision. So this will be patient communication. This will be handling common scenarios like late patients, cancellations. This might be things like regular feedback sessions that we're going to give them in terms of how they're doing and not doing. We want to start to introduce them to our KPIs, both the hard and the soft. And so we're gradually moving them into, by week 5 to 8, we want independent practice and refinement, okay? This is where they're really working on their skills without somebody watching over their shoulder. Again, we're addressing any challenges as well. By week 12 to 9, this is where we want mastery, okay? They should be able to do these things really well. Answer the phone, book a new patient, make a recall or reactivation, deal with any tricky scenarios that might come up, okay? So again, there are regular weekly meetings with our staff person at this stage to support them through all of this, okay? A structured onboarding process is not just about training, it's about fostering confidence, alignment, and engagement. When you really thoughtfully plan out the first 12 weeks, you ensure that every new hire becomes a valuable long-term member of your team, okay? This is one of those scenarios of hard now, easy later. I know you're busy, that's probably why you need the new staff person, but if you ignore this, they don't stick around or they end up trained really poorly, and it's harder to retrain somebody than it is to train them properly in the first place. And that moves us on to step number 6, and that is train regularly, okay? Now, why is this important? Because it improves skill and knowledge. Regular training sharpens the existing skills and allows you to introduce new ones, okay? It ensures that your team stays efficient and really effective. It'll help with confidence. Nobody likes doing things poorly. And so rather than throwing somebody into a real life scenario with a recall or a reactivation or, dealing with late appointments there as well, let's train on this. When we're consistently trained, we feel confident, and confident, we'll be much more capable as well. It'll allow us to adapt to any changes, okay? How you run your practice today is possibly different than how you ran it 12 months ago. There's going to be update on systems and technologies and policies. We want to make sure that we do that. Of course, training regularly mostly is about enhancing patient experience. Well-trained staff members are going to give better service. They're going to be better leaders, better communicators as well, okay? It's an opportunity for you to reinforce values and culture, okay? So what should you train on? So if you're thinking about this, okay, and guess what should I be training on there too? There are specific roles, okay? Front desks have to train on different things in your tech CA as well. Customer service, all the things that come under the umbrella of that. Practice management software, how does your front desk software work there too? Compliance and safety. Soft skills like emotional intelligence, problem solving, time management, and of course, patient education. That's something that we should be training on regularly as well. How frequently should we be doing this? Well, in my practice, there were elements of training that happened daily, okay? Sometimes there was a short thing that we talked about, pre or post shift huddle there as well. This might be just a 10-minute role play on handling a patient complaint as well. But we had formal kind of check-ins at least monthly. These were in-depth sessions or workshops. They were reviewing a specific aspect of maybe patient care or introducing a new process. We had even bigger sessions. So again, those monthly ones might have been somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes. Quarterly, we did a more comprehensive training, okay? Sometimes we might bring in a guest speaker there as well. It could be a half-day workshop on improving patient education. Again, some of these quarterly trainings here could actually be outsourced. We might go along to a seminar as well. And then as a general rule, once a year, we would come together, and sometimes it was for a full day. And again, we would talk about what was our vision, our goals, those sorts of things there too. So the training is not something that's once off and looks lots of different ways. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly, okay? It isn't a one-time event. It's a continuous process that drives growth and excellence in your practice. When you prioritize regular targeted training, you empower your team to deliver exceptional care, okay? This will be foundational and continuing to the success of your practice, okay? Step number 7 is that you must conduct regular performance reviews. Now, regular is going to sit somewhere between quarterly and half yearlies, okay? These are structured one-on-one meetings between you and your team members to discuss their performance over the past 3 to 6 months. They're an opportunity for you to get feedback, align on expectations, and collaboratively set goals for the upcoming kind of quarter or 6 months, okay? So again, why are they important? They provide regular feedback. They enhance accountability. They improve engagement and retention. They encourage growth of the practice of the individuals in there as well. And they reinforce alignment with goals and values. So what do we do in these? This is a question that comes to me all the time. What do I do in a performance review? Well, you start with your KPIs. This is why we set these up beforehand, okay? So a review of the KPIs, both the hard and the soft, and we check in. How are you doing, all right? This is what's going on. So we're able to look at these targets and we discuss them. We talk about their strengths. Here's an opportunity for you to share with them. What are they doing well, okay? And again, reinforce this. Let them know they're doing a great job there too. And also, we want to let them know where are their areas for improvement. What are some of the challenges? Again, this might be aligned with the missed KPIs, or there might be other actionable things that we need them moving forwards. I noticed that there were a bunch of scheduling errors this last quarter. Let's discuss strategies to double check these appointments. How do we get these fixed up? Of course, what we want to do this is we want the employee's perspective as well. We want to give the team member a chance to share their own reflections, okay? What do they think they did well? Where do they think they need improvement? What more do they want from us as a leader, as a chiropractor as well, okay? This is not just a one-way focusing review. It's an opportunity for them to give feedback as well. Of course, what we'd want to do is we want to review the goals for the next quarter or 6 months. What are we wanting them to learn? This quarter, our focus is improving no-shows, okay? We want to do this by 10%. Here's the strategies that we're going to do to make that happen, okay? Here's the key takeaway. Performance reviews are not just about an evaluation. They're about a growth, alignment. They're about strengthening the connection between you and your team, the practice's mission. Now, when they are built upon a really good culture here, where we're okay to be making mistakes and failure isn't final, then your team will really look forward to these reviews. When we focus on KPIs, when we foster really open dialogue, you're sure that everybody feels valued and empowered to succeed, okay? Do not miss this. Now, the final piece of the puzzle that we're going to be talking about here today is making sure, or step number 8 here, is that we have recognition and rewards for our staff. An interesting experience recently, I've got some clients that I work with over in the States, and I was talking to one of their associates, and he is an absolute ripper. He's going above and beyond and pulling his weight in terms of what he's doing in the practice there too. He's running workshops, he's running marketing, And over this recent time, he's even been doing some staff trainings. Now, in these staff trainings that he's been doing, he's been upskilling everybody through there. Now, he's feeling at the moment, well, in fact, he's not feeling the love. Okay, so he's not getting any recognition or any rewards from the principal chiropractor as well. And this is starting to cause some friction. Now, I was having a chat with him recently about this, and it came up because we're trying to problem solve this whole issue there too. All he wants is to be acknowledged. It doesn't need money, doesn't need time off, doesn't need gifts, but just wants a thank you, a genuine thank you, and to be acknowledged for the extra work that he's putting in. And we miss this all of the time. At the end of every shift, I stopped before I walked out the door and I looked at my CAs in the eye and I said, thank you for the great job that you did this morning. I wanted them to know that I valued them and I wanted to acknowledge them, okay? And words can be a great place to do this. Finding out the love language of your staff is a great thing because some people, words of affirmation, it can be a written word. Again, staff members, for some people, it's just going to be a little cash bonus. Maybe it's just $50 in a card that says thank you. Now, varying the rewards here has shown to actually increase the benefit of the rewards. And so, flowers, a day off, something that's nice and thoughtful. We would often surprise our staff by letting them know the week beforehand, hey, as a thank you for the great work that you've done, we're giving you next Thursday off. We've organized another person to come in. And it's something special for them that they can do. But we need to be constantly recognizing and rewarding our staff. And if you don't do this, if you're not giving them the love, then they will go elsewhere, okay? These 8 steps are the foundation of you building your dream team. And your dream team allows you to grow your practice with ease. You become not the bottleneck. In fact, what your team does is they amplify you. So let's review these 8 steps again. The first is, it starts off with hiring the right person, okay? We then need to have a really clear job description, clear KPIs, documented systems for implementation, a really clear onboarding process, certainly for the first 90 days. We need to train regularly, at a minimum monthly as well. We want to make sure that we're having quarterly or 6-monthly performance reviews. And then finally, we're recognizing and rewarding our staff for the great work that they do. This, I know for many of you, might seem a little overwhelming. It's a learnable skill. And if you made this the focus of your next 6 months, you would be absolutely blown away by the impact that this will have on your practice, not only just from the enjoyment and the ease that you have there too, but from an income point of view. Very few things will make more of a difference to the profitability of your practice than you being able to amplify your output, okay? Good staff all doing the right things. Folks, that's it for this episode as well. If you've got questions about this, you can reach out to me on the socials or you can scoop me an email. And as always, thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Your community needs you building a dream team. All right, until next time, folks, see you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspike.com/join. That's anguspike.com/join. I'd love to see you there.